Welcome to Quiz Time. I'm your quiz master, Sean, and I've got 100 questions for you about the 1950s. So, let's see what we know, what we remember. Let's give our brains a workout, keep them young, you know. And let's begin with question number 1, shall we? Baseball manager Casey Stengel was nicknamed. Was he Slats? Was he the old professor? Or was he called Whitey? Casey Stengel, he was the old professor. Who were Bobby Soxers? Fans of the Red Sox? Were they fans of the White Sox? Or were they teenage schoolgirls named for wearing Bobby socks? Bobby Soxers. They were teenage girls named for wearing Bobby socks. Elvis Presley's first commercial single was it That's All Right? Was it Heartbreak Hotel? Or was it Blue Christmas? Elvis's first commercial single, that would be That's All Right. Who drove the fabulous Hudson Hornet during the 1951 and 1952 racing season? Was it Steve McQueen? Was it Marshall Teague? Or was it Mike Hawthorne? That was driven by Marshall Teague. Argentine racing driver Juan Fangio's nickname was El Nino. Is that true or is that false? Racing driver Juan Fangio's nickname was not El Nino. He was named El Tueco or El Maestro. Therefore, it's false. The song At the Hop from Danny and Juniors was it about making beer? Was it about dances at a sock hop? Or was it about someone falling in love? That song was about dances at a sock hop. Beatniks were known for frequenting, was it coffee shops? Did they frequent opera houses? Or were they known for going to baseball games? Beatniks were known for frequenting coffee shops. Father Knows Best debuted February 14th, 1953. Is that true or is that false? The debut of Father Knows Best was October 3rd, 1954. Therefore, that's false. Do you dig? What does that mean? Do you have a garden? Do you work hard? Or does that mean, do you understand? Do you dig or do you dig it means, do you understand? It's Friday. It's 5 to 5. And it's Cracker Jack was a slogan for a British children's series. Is that true or is that false? And that would be true. It's 5 to 5, and it's Cracker Jack. Victory rolls, poodle hair, and Italian cut were all hairstyles used in the 1950s. Is that true or is that false? That is true. Gobstoppers are known as jawbreakers in the US and Canada. Is that true or is that false? And that is true. They're interchangeable. The Famous Five are a series of adventure novels by Enid Blyton, a group of superheroes, or the Five Senses. The Famous Five are a series of adventure novels by Enid Blyton. What was not a common glasses frame in the 1950s? The cat eye, the horn rims, or the T-shade? One of them was not a common glasses frame in the 50s. And the odd one out is the T-shade. What is rockabilly? Is it one of the early styles of rock and roll? Is it a mountain goat? Or is it a steamship? Rockabilly is one of the earliest styles of rock and roll. What are the Hardy Boys' names? Are they Biff and Chet? Are they Frank and Joe? Or are they Phil and Jerry? The Hardy Boys' names are Frank and Joe. James Dean's character is challenged to a chicky run in which 1955 movie? Giant, Rebel Without a Cause, or East of Eden? And that movie would be Rebel Without a Cause. Who played Leslie Benedict in Giant? Elizabeth Taylor, Grace Kelly, or Natalie Wood? Leslie Benedict in Giant. That was played by Elizabeth Taylor. The playground game Red Rover is known as what in Russia? Forcing the City Gates, the King's Run, or Ali Baba? In Russia, Red Rover goes by the name Ali Baba. Bowling was America's most popular participation sport in the 1950s. Is that true or is that false? That would be true. Robbie the Robot's first on-screen appearance was it on The Fantastic Island? Was it The Invisible Boy? Or was it Forbidden Planet? And that would be Forbidden Planet. He was known as the King of Skiffle. Was that Lonnie Donegan, Frankie Vaughan, or Emil Ford? The King of Skiffle. That would be Lonnie Donegan. Franklin Roosevelt mentioned his dog in the famous Checkers speech. Is that true or is that false? And that is false. Richard Nixon gave the Checkers speech. What was the first animated film to be made in CinemaScope? Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, Lady and the Tramp, or was it Cinderella? And the first movie made using CinemaScope was Lady and the Tramp. In 1952, mail order catalogs carried large selections of circle skirts specially designed for teens and preteens. Is that true or is that false? That is true. The vibrating belt machine purported to reduce body fat actually worked. Is that true or is that false? That's false. This was a famous example of the circle skirt, the pencil skirt, the mini skirt, or the poodle skirt. Famous example of the circle skirt. That would be the poodle skirt. Which K-Star song did not become #1 on the Billboard chart in the 1950s? Wheel of Fortune, The Rock and Roll Waltz, or You're Only Foolin' While I Was Falling in Love? The odd one out here is You Were Only Foolin' While I Was Falling in Love. While in military academy, Marlon Brando stole the clapper from the school's bell tower and buried it before organizing a committee to find out who was responsible for the theft. Is that true or is that false? Well, that tall tale there is a true. Which variety of rosebush was first developed in the 1950s? The grandiflora, the tea rose, or the floribunda? And let's see, that variety of rosebush was the grandiflora. What puppet was featured in a Western-themed American TV program? Lamb Chop, Howdy Doody, or Kermit? And let's see, that puppet in the Western-themed program was Howdy Doody. Store-bought candy didn't become a Halloween staple until the late 1930s. Is that true or is that false? That's actually going to be false. It was the late 1950s before store-bought candy was a thing at Halloween here in the United States. This game started as a private game played on a yacht. Scrabble, Yahtzee, or Mousetrap? And that game is Yahtzee, or used to be called Yacht. The slogan, "It melts in your mouth, not in your hand," was first used in the 1950s for which candy? Satellite wafers, Reese's Pieces, or M&Ms? And those would be M&Ms. They melt in your mouth, not in your hands. Kraft created the Matchbox car toy because his daughter's school only allowed toys that could fit inside a matchbox. Is that true or is that false? Fun fact, that's true. Wells Fargo introduced the first credit card in 1952. Is that true or is that false? And that just happens to be false. Diners Club was the first modern credit card and was introduced in 1950. In 1952, at age 25, Elizabeth II took over the responsibility of ruling England. Is that true or is that false? That would be true. However, she wasn't officially crowned queen until the next year. Who invented the polio vaccine? Was it Louis Pasteur? Was it George F. and Gladys Dick? Or was it Jonas Salk? The inventor of the polio vaccine was Jonas Salk. The first Disneyland opened in Anaheim, California. In what year? 1952, 1955, or 1957? And the year was 1955. In 1957, the Soviets launched a satellite named what? Was it Beatnik, Sputnik, or was it called Dr. Zhivago? Well, that was the Sputnik. When it was first sold in America, the Cat in the Hat was how much? $2, $7, or did it cost 50 cents? The Cat in the Hat originally sold for $2. The angry contestant who approached a reporter and started the fixed quiz show scandals was from which show? 21, the $64,000 question, or was it The Big Surprise? It was 21. Which toy was first advertised on TV? Legos, Mr. Potato Head, or the game of Cootie? First to be advertised on television, that would be Mr. Potato Head. What was not slang that started in the 1950s? Daddy-o, burn rubber, or grifter? And that would be grifter. The first Playboy magazine featured who on the cover? Was it Marilyn Monroe? Was it Jane Mansfield? Or was it Corinne Cole? The first Playboy magazine cover was Marilyn Monroe. The Lego Group's motto is what? Now you're playing with power? They're great! Or only the best is good enough. The Lego Group's original motto was, only the best is good enough. What was demonstrated at an educational convention in 1956? Flubber, Play-Doh, or Jell-O? An educational convention in 1956, that's where Play-Doh was introduced. What cartoon cat said, "I hate you Mises to pieces"? Was it Tom, Sylvester, or Mr. Jinx? And that cartoon cat was Mr. Jinx. The Kit Kat clock was given a bow tie in 1932, 1941, or 1954. And that year was 1954. Who is older, Felix the Cat or Mickey Mouse? The older kitty cat is Felix. He's older. What is the hand jive? A stretching exercise, a martial arts move, or a dance that involves patterns of hand moves and rhythmic claps? Hand jive, dance that involves hand moves and claps. What is formica? Mica that has been processed, a plastic laminate, or a company that makes resin molds? Formica is a plastic laminate. The Three Musketeers bar was so named because each candy bar originally contained 3 flavors: chocolate, strawberry, and vanilla. Is that true or is that false? And that would be true. Buddy Holly was known for winning the Congressional Medal of Honor, his stuttering vocals, or his impressive dance moves. Buddy Holly was most known for his stuttering vocals. In the 1950s, the Schwinn Varsity was the bike of choice for professional racers. Is that true or is that false? And that is false. The Schwinn Paramount was the professional biker's choice. When was the golden age of comic books? 1932 to 1964, 1938 to 1956, or 1942 to 1973? That would be 1938 to 1956, but I think they're making a comeback. At the height of their popularity, how many drive-in theaters were there in the US? Over 4,000, a little under 11,000, or around 900? At the height of their popularity, there were over 4,000 drive-in theaters in the United States. The Moulton Taylor Aero car was never able to fly. Is that true or is that false? The Moulton Taylor Aero car. False. It was able to fly. The Chevrolet Bel Air was inspired by the Ferrari 250 Testarossa. Is that true or is that false? that would be true. A soda jerk was a bully who liked to drink soda, a dance, or someone who operated the soda fountain at a drugstore. A soda jerk was someone who operated the soda fountain at a drugstore. Motown was so named because it was based in Missouri. Is that true or is that false? That is false. It was a portmanteau of motor and town, which is in Michigan, Detroit. Juke comes from the Gula word meaning barrel house, jug, or rowdy. Juke comes from the Gula word meaning rowdy. American Bandstand's Rate a Record segment gave rise to the catchphrase, "It's got a good beat and you can dance to it." Is that fact or is that fiction? And that is a fact. William H. Shaper's Cootie game is known as what in the UK? Beetle Drive, Creepy Critters, or Build a Beetle? And in the UK they call it Beetle Drive. Who played Ethan Edwards in The Searchers? Randolph Scott, John Wayne, or Clark Gable? And that was played by John Wayne. Lil Abner lived in what fictional U.S. town? Hillbilly Haven, Gasoline Alley, or Dog Patch? Lil Abner lived in Dog Patch. Gumby's sidekick is it Pokey, Nopey, or Clokey? Gumby's sidekick is Pokey. Which song was performed by the Everly Brothers? Susie Q, Wake Up Little Susie, or Ka Ding Dong? It's Wake Up a Little Susie. Our goose is cooked and our reputation is shot. Who played Opie in the Andy Griffith Show? Jerry Mathers, Richard Keith, or Ron Howard? In the Andy Griffith Show, Opie was played by Ron Howard. The legendary phrase, "Say it isn't so, Joe," was a headline about shoeless Joe Jackson. Is that true or is that false? And yes, that's true. Where was Audrey Hepburn born? Was she born in Britain, Belgium, or France? Audrey Hepburn was born in Belgium. Starting in 1951, paper dolls named Betsy were printed in which magazine? Ladies' Home Journal, Good Housekeeping, or McCall's Magazine? They were first printed in McCall's Magazine. What company created the first TV dinner? Stouffer's, C.A. Swanson and Sons, or Marie Callender's? The first TV dinners were made by C.A. Swanson and Sons. Was Montgomery Ward colloquially called Monkey Wards? Yes or no? True or false? Montgomery Wards was colloquially called Monkey Wards. True or false? That is true. Ivy League, Caesar, and Butch were all men's hairstyles? Were they baseball teams? Or were they salads? All three of them were men's hairstyles. Well, actually, are men's hairstyles. What were Tupperware parties? Gatherings where women promoted and sold Tupperware? Lunch breaks with a boxed lunch? Or potluck parties where food was brought in Tupperware containers? Tupperware parties were gatherings where women promoted and sold Tupperware. Greasers were called greasers in Greater Baltimore. Is that true or is that false? Greasers were first called greasers. Well, false. They were called drapes and drapettes in Baltimore. Leslie Caron's film debut was it in Gigi, An American in Paris, or Daddy Longlegs? That would be An American in Paris. Alaska was officially proclaimed a state on, was it March 10th, 1946, January 3rd, 1959, or July 7th, 1958? And that was January 3rd, 1959. Snooty was oldest manatee kept in captivity, or originally named Baby Snoots, or both of them. All of the above. All of the above. Jilly shoes were popular among dancers and bobby sockers alike. Is that true or is that false? Jilly or gilly shoes. That would be false. It was a sailor shoe that was popular with dancers and bobby sockers. Part of this Hollywood actress's iconic look was her pixie cut. Was it Audrey Hepburn, Leslie Caron, or Lauren Bacall? And that was Leslie Caron. What era is known as the golden age of roller skating? The 1880s to 1910s, the 1840s to 1860s, or the 1930s to 1950s? And that would be the 1930s to 1950s. Despite it being attributed to him, Joe Friday and Dragnet never said, "You dirty rat." Just the facts, ma'am. Lucy, I'm home. He never said, "Just the facts, ma'am." What was the test card used in American black and white broadcasting? Indian head test pattern, the RTF test card, or Phillips pattern? And that would be the Indian head test pattern. In the 1950s, what was the most popular dessert among American soldiers? Apple pie, peach cobbler, or banana cream pie? And that would be banana cream pie. Debbie Reynolds was the female lead in. Was it A Date with Judy, The Bachelor and the Bobby Soxer, or Singin' in the Rain? And she was the lead in Singin' in the Rain. Where is the birthplace of French surfing? Biarritz, Nice, or Bandol? The birthplace of French surfing was Biarritz. What muscle car was the inspiration for the first rock and roll song? Ford Thunderbird, the Oldsmobile Rocket 88 or the Chevrolet Corvette? That was the Oldsmobile Rocket 88. Masaru Ibuka and Akio Morita founded Tokyo Telecommunications Engineering Corporation, which would later become Toshiba. Is that true or is that false? That's false. It would later become Sony. The pacemaker was successfully demonstrated on a parrot before being publicized. Is that true or is that false? Parrot. That's false. It was tested on a dog. That would be a small pacemaker, wouldn't it? The inspiration for the hula hoop was made of. Was it originally made of plastic, bamboo, or stiffened rope? The inspiration for the hula hoop was made of bamboo. After Bogart's death, a bogey cult formed in Massachusetts, Greenwich Village, and France. Is that true, or is that just too silly to be true and therefore false? Weird. That's true. The Peanuts comic strip was written and illustrated by, was that by Stan Lee, Al Capp, or Charles M. Schulz? The Peanuts comic strip was created by Charles M. Schulz. The Beagle is the only dog breed to rank in the top 10 breeds every decade since the American Kennel Club began. Is that true or is that false? Beagle. That's true. But they bark so much. The Brown Derby restaurant features in an episode of which TV show? The Twilight Zone, I Love Lucy, or Gunsmoke? The Brown Derby features in I Love Lucy. In 1950, Royal introduced a redesigned Quiet Deluxe typewriter that came in how many colors? 3 colors, 5 colors, or 6 colors? The Royal typewriter came in 6 colors. In the 1950s, Five Nations Championship, who won the Grand Slam and Triple Crown? Wales, Ireland, or Scotland? In the Five Nations Championship. That would be Wales. Yugoslavia was a country located in Southeast and Central Europe. Is that true or is that false? And that is true. And question 100. Dwight David Eisenhower was the President of the U.S. in 1955. Is that true or is that false? Ike in 55? Well, that's true. And that was question 100. Thank you for playing Quiz Time. Don't forget to drop your score in the comments and like, subscribe, ring that notification bell so you never miss Quiz Time when it comes out. Again, thanks for playing. We'll catch you in the next one.